Mental Maniacs, it's me, Terrible Tim, and I'm here backstage on Super Bowl Sunday, of all things, with my old friend, Mortis, right here on Drive-In Movie Maniacs, all the way from Norway, my friend.
All right.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, 20 years.
20 years since I saw you last.
You haven't aged a day.
I haven't aged a day in 20 years? Well, that's kind of you, sir. Neither of you.
Yeah,
you look
up.
You look as young and spry as ever.
You're a good liar.
Now, of course, in 1999, I first met you. You were on your first American tour.
Right on.
With none other than the legendary goth band Christian Death.
Yeah.
Now, how was that experience for it being your first American tour? One, dealing with Christian Death, and two, being in America for the first time.
It was a lot of impressions. I wasn't aware that I was so fresh into touring at the time. It was my first tour that I was looking at specs, and one venue says it's 400 capacity, whatever. I thought 400 people was going to show up.
Right. You were that naive.
I was beyond naive, man.
Right.
I mean, I'm looking at like 400.
Yes.
Oh my God, we're gonna sell so many T-shirts.
Right.
And 80 people shows up, and they're like, "What the fuck is going on? It doesn't make any fucking sense."
Right.
But yeah, so it was a steep learning curve and then the whole thing with curfews and be on time. If sound checks at 3, it's at freaking 3. It's not 3:30 and all that stuff. And I got yelled at a lot the first week, and but it was cool because you learn so many things. Dealing with Christian Death was mostly fine. We're artists. We're
right.
Weird. We're moody, and
right.
You got the good days and bad days and things like that. So, one day you realize you have a dressing room. The next day you don't have a dressing room. You're getting ready in the fucking bathroom.
And we should be clear about which Christian Death it was. It was Valor's Christian Death.
Yeah.
Roz was long dead by then. I mean, Roz had been dead for a year or two.
He'd been gone for a while.
Yeah.
I kind of did a show with him in Chicago a couple of years before in the Expo of the Extreme. Ross was there, and I believe he left us shortly after that.
Yes, yeah. And we had, as promoters, a lot of people don't know it. Back then, I was a promoter and a DJ, and I had a company with a couple other guys, and that whole summer we'd been booking these bands through this booking agent, and he kept promising us Christian Death. Later in the summer, Christian Death is going to tour. And we're like, well, we really want this Christian Death show. And then we found out you were opening up for him.
Right.
And my friend Ben at the time was a huge fan of yours. He was obviously a fan of Emperor and all that stuff, your Vaughn stuff and all the early stuff. Mm-hmm. Ben was the one that turned me on to you guys back then when you were still doing kind of the chamber, dungeon, early sound.
The dungeon chamber?
The dungeon chamber music?
We can't even talk about it. Yeah. Dungeon Synth, as it's known now.
Yeah.
That was a thing that happened later, I guess. That term.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't invent that. That was not me.
No. But you kind of had your own thing going back then with the original sound. I always called it dark chamber music, I guess, was what I always kind of referred to it as, because it was very... ethereal would be a good word, I guess.
I guess so. I mean, when I started out, I didn't even have a name for it. I mean, I just used what was already out there. I called it dark ambient.
Right.
Because that was the only way I knew how to describe it.
Right.
Using a term that already existed, I guess.
And some of the Vaughn stuff was even a little more experimental than the Mortis stuff. Like the Vaughn, like Green Eyed Demon was very experimental.
Well, that one was me, because that was at this... That was in like '97 or something like that, and I was getting deeper into the whole sort of underground industrial noise experimental.
More samply, yeah. It was very
sample based. You got your loops and all that stuff, and that was just me kind of like experimenting with actual tape loops, which is what like the old dudes did back in the '70s, because you didn't have samplers and stuff. There was no digital recording equipment or anything like that. You didn't have that technology.
Cabaret Voltaire, all those guys were doing that kind of stuff back in the day.
The originators of that genre.
Yeah,
and I was just fascinated by the idea of this cutting tape, and because that's really random. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, kind of like William S. Burroughs kind of style.
Right, even before that.
Yeah.
So I said, Green Eyed Demon was based around a whole bunch of me sitting there with a freaking razor and cutting tape and then taping it back into this machine and just playing it and then recording what happened, and then just putting noise and weird stuff on top of that. And I'm not sure if it's a successful thing, but even for me personally, as an artist, I thought it was an interesting thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when we met, you were on the Stargate tour, which is one of my favorite albums. If you haven't heard Stargate, go back, find that album, listen to it. It's amazing. But you've kind of returned to that sound now. You went industrial and really more synth industrial for the last 10 years or so, 15 years.
Probably 15.
And then now you're kind of returned to that late 90s kind of era Mortis, where it's a little more Stargate kind of a sound.
I suppose it kind of ended up sounding, sound-wise, I think it ended up closer to the Stargate than anything else that I'd done in the 90s. That was not really planned, but I guess that's just the way it ended up. The way that it started was I was going to reinterpret some of my older stuff, like some really old, like my second record from back in '94, for a festival, for one performance. That was actually the original idea.
Right.
But as soon as I started laying down the tracks for the backing tracks for that performance, ideas immediately started forming in my head, and I'm basically an autistic bastard. I can't let anything lie down. Like if I get an idea in my head, I have to fucking act on it.
Right.
So all these ideas start popping up. Like I hear all these new melodies and all these cool things that why didn't I put that on top of it back in '94? What was I, an idiot? So I got to try that, and so I just kept doing it. And after a couple of weeks of just kind of going crazy with that, I realized I'm probably making a new record here.
Right. Well, art is never really done, is it? I mean, you're always kind of reinterpreting.
It's always just at some stage of evolution.
It's like you just got to let it go at some point. It's what it is what it is at some point, I guess.
Yeah, which is hard.
Right. So we know that.
It was fun going back to it and just going like, okay, so this is what I guess my album should have sounded like back in '94. But 25 years on, I mean, you have additional experience and and know-how and access to technology and things like that. So it's you get shit done in a different way.
Well, I love the new stuff. Spirit of Rebellion is amazing. I loved it. Cool. I'm really digging it. So I'm excited to see the show tonight.
Yeah.
Now, the history of Mortis, the character of Mortis that you play on stage, or that you are, the god, is Mortis a goblin? Is he a troll? Is he a demon?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I never called it anything. It's just Mortis, and it's just an idea that just has been forever taking on different shapes and just evolving and becoming whatever it's becoming. And I've been on the sideline watching the media call me all kinds of fucking things. Trolls and goblins and fucking I don't know what. But
everything in between.
All the stuff in between.
You're all that.
I am, and more.
And there you go.
Yeah. I'm the whole package.
You are Mortis.
Mortis.
Yeah,
in France.
That's another thing. I mean, some people might say Mortis.
Yeah, Mortis.
Mortis.
Yeah,
what's up, Mortis?
Yeah. Who knows? Yeah, Mortis. Shit. Yeah, I think it's just down to where you are.
Right. I mean, you pronounce it Mortis just like anybody else.
I do that, but then, like, if I'm in a gas station and somebody approaches me, at 5 o'clock in the morning or something like that, and like, hey, you in the band? With a southern drawl. And I'm like, yeah, I guess, and are you famous? And so you go through the whole thing,
right.
And what's your band called? That's when I say Mortis.
Right.
Because if I go...
It's more high class.
Well, it's just more... Because I'm thinking they might want to try to Google it.
Right. And so they need to know there's two eyes.
Exactly.
Right.
So I do that. I'm just being helpful.
Right. They may not realize it because they may be too stupid to realize what you're saying. But
yeah, I've written my band name on napkins many a time.
Now, going back... Let's go back even further. When you were in Emperor, one of the original black metal bands of all time, the church burnings, all that whole original Norway scene in the early 90s, you were a part of. You were there. You lived it. You were a part of that original scene.
Yeah, I wasn't there for every church burning.
Right. Maybe a couple, right? You plead the fifth. He pleads the fifth on church burning.
Yeah, I was a witness of things. But I wasn't. I didn't burn churches.
Right.
No.
But you were there. You were part of that original scene. A lot of people romanticize that early black metal scene today. These kids today, they think it was this big, crazy scene, when really it was just a few guys kind of hanging out in a record store. It wasn't like a...
That was pretty much what it boiled down to. Was I'd say we were... If you got all those guys together, there were a handful of Swedes and then mostly Norwegians. I think if you gotten all those dudes in the same room, I mean, it wouldn't be more than 20, 25
Right,
people.
right. And that's a misconception of those early black metal days. These kids think it was like this big scene that they missed out on when really it wasn't. It was.
We were a bunch of guys making music and then getting into some pretty extreme activities, and it was all supposed to sort of gel together. Like I think the idea was there was supposed to be some sort of like a cult where like music was sort of the focus, but that we were doing some pretty heavy stuff.
Right.
As some sort of statement, but. No, it wasn't like 400 people fucking, this big, powerful movement. I mean, we were just a few guys circling, focused around the record store in Oslo.
Right.
That was it.
Now, what do you think about today's black metal scene and how it's, over the last 20 years, how it's grown into this crazy thing of its own, and it's kind of been romanticized, and it's not quite the same as it was. And
no, I mean, I think it's really cool that at least some bands are seemingly able to make a living off of music. I mean, if you make good music, you deserve to be able to make a living off of it, and I like that part.
Did you guys have any idea that scene would actually grow into what it has?
No,
I mean, it's amazing.
There was no sign of that happening at the time, and quite frankly, we didn't really want a lot of people involved in it.
What do you think about all the Satanism and I'm more evil than you kind of stuff? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, if people truly walk around these days and say, "Now I'm more evil than you," I mean, they could have taken a time machine, gone back to '93, and we'll see how fucking evil.
Right. Right. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking murders and all kinds of stuff were going on back in those days. I mean, that's the real scene. That's what sparked it all, was the real madness. I mean,
that is it. I mean that got everything started, and I think probably because now we're talking, it's 25 years ago. It doesn't seem as hardcore when you had that.
right.
Through the fogs of time, things just mellow out. It doesn't seem real.
Right.
It's just this interesting myth.
Right. Varg.
It was real.
Varg's a YouTuber now. I mean, yeah, it's all kind of demystified a little bit.
I heard about it. I saw some karate kicks.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I'm out.
Well, and and Varg, he's not really interested in doing black metal anymore either. He's like, he doesn't care about that. I mean, it was like, he's like, we were talking about it. It wasn't even a big scene. It was just a couple guys. So it's weird how you see things differently when you get older. But of course, after you spent 20 years in jail, I mean, I'm sure you'd change your mind on anything.
That will change a man, I'm sure.
Now, what do you think about Mortis memes? Have you seen any Mortis memes?
I saw a lot of them a few years ago, and I just don't pay attention to them. I mean, I get that they're funny, but like, do you really want my attention? I mean, do you really expect me to give a fuck about it?
Right. I think my favorite one I saw was the Billy Idol one, where is in the midnight hour I cry more, Mortis.
Really?
Yeah, you haven't seen that one?
I have not.
Oh, I got it on my phone. I got to show it to you.
Oh, God.
Here, we'll pull it up. We'll show it to
Billy
the...
Idol, so that's cool.
I saved it on my phone just to show it to you. It's hilarious.
All right. Yeah.
And there you go at home. We'll have you pull it up we'll pull it up later for everybody at home.
God, yeah.
But I was just laughing at some of the memes out there. I thought it was really funny, and it was just there's a lot of Mortis memes, more than I thought there were.
Yeah, there was a whole page dedicated to them, I think, at one point.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, I got to find this.
I don't know if it's still online or anything, but there was.
Now, do you believe in aliens?
I think it's hard to accept the fact that we're supposed to be alone. I mean, given that there are supposedly more planets in our galaxy alone than there are grains of sand on the Earth, and there are more galaxies in the universe than there are grains of sand on the Earth. So to make a claim that we're the only fucking intelligent species out there.
If you consider us intelligent, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I am. I can't speak for anyone else, but
I'm a moron.
A Mormon?
I might be one of those two.
No, it just seems like no. There's got to be more out there.
Right.
I mean, I don't think we're the only ones.
I've always wondered what you thought about that because of the Stargate album, because Mortis was kind of an alien, kind of a creature-looking thing. I always wondered what your thoughts were.
Well, once again, I mean, I never called it anything.
Right,
but,
right.
I mean, the Stargate concept was inspired by the myth surrounding Stonehenge, and that's supposed to be a Stargate and the means of traveling through dimensions.
Right.
I just thought that in itself was just a great foundation for just imaginative storytelling.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. I mean, there's no fucking way we're the only ones. I just refuse to believe it.
Now I know you're a big, huge Kiss fan. You grew up on Kiss, Wasp,
I
all those
tried to
bands.
remain, in spite of Gene Simmons, I do try
right.
to remain a Kiss fan.
Gene's a bit hard to swallow sometimes. Well,
whenever he opens his mouth, there's a lot of stuff.
I brought you a present because we're both kids of the same age and some same ilk, and we grew up on Kiss.
Yeah.
These are vintage Kiss cards.
Oh my God.
From the 1970s.
Are those from like the Swedish candy stuff?
Well, yeah, they used to come with bubble gum here in the United States, and we used to collect these in the 70s,
They used to be in Norway. Used to have this it was like a bag of mixed candy.
No.
Called Stjernepose, which basically means star bag.
Okay.
And it had like a bunch of different candy in it, and then a set of Kiss cards.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
And that was those, man. I mean, I recognize it's got that sort of the 70s.
Right. Oh, yeah. It's got the puzzle on the back. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You can put it together in the back, and it becomes like a complete thing.
These are yours.
Fantastic.
Those are for you, my friend.
Thank you very much.
I know you're a huge Kiss fan. We're Kiss Army all the way here at Drive-In Movie Maniacs. Obviously, we're influenced by Kiss. I mean, look at me.
Yeah.
And I've also got a Drive-In Movie Maniacs glow-in-the-dark T-shirt just for you, sir.
Excellent.
A medium as you ordered.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes, you sent me a message, and I was like, "What does he want to know that?" He's still gonna give me some crappy T-shirt.
Well, yeah, of course.
But this is good. This is not a crappy T-shirt, and I'm dirty as fuck on tour, so
all right,
clean stuff.
If you wear that, I will be. If you put a picture of yourself on Instagram wearing that shirt, I will freak out. But you don't have to.
I'll try to remember.
And I mean, obviously, wear it in good faith. I know you. I don't have to say all that. Now, we have some friends in common that I didn't know we had. Some fans of the show named Chris Heap and Cheryl Hall. Chris was in one of your touring bands for a tour, I believe.
Right.
And they found me on Facebook a couple years ago.
Cool.
And they're like, "Oh, we got this band and we do this and we love your show and we want to send you some art." They sent me all this awesome artwork. And then Chris tells me he toured with you and that they were friends with you.
I've toured with so many people. Cheryl Hall, that name I recognize.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
And Chris and Cheryl, they mentioned you and they put us back in touch after all these. They put me back in touch with you, and that's why we're doing this interview. And so it's a small world. It was kind of crazy that fans of my show actually knew you, and I'm like, yeah, I know Mortis from 20 years ago. So it's pretty amazing. It's a small world, my friend.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything you want to... Actually, I want to ask you this before we go here. What is your favorite horror movie? Because I know you've sampled like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and movies like that in your music. I've always wondered what your favorite horror movie was.
It's a little hard to answer that. There's a few that I like, but I was always into like the John Carpenter soundtrack stuff, So it would have to be like a combo of just the music and then the movie.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the music can be great, but the soundtrack will be like,
right. Well, I know you're a huge Tangerine Dream fan.
Oh yeah. I mean, but honestly, I think John Carpenter probably beats it. Prince of Darkness, I would say.
There you go.
Kind of like an old classic.
And John Carpenter's like a whole genre of himself. You know what I mean? It's like music and movies. I mean, the man
he makes his own music.
I mean, it's crazy.
He did his own music, and from what I understood, it was due to budget restraints. So he had to sit down there, with a bunch of like these really old cool like ARPs in the movies and all that stuff, and he just came up with this fantastic freaking soundtracky stuff, for several of his movies.
The DIY, do-it-yourself attitude, much like you have, much like we have. I mean, that's what you've done. You've created your whole world, did your own music for it.
Well, nobody else is going to do it.
Right? There you go.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything you want to tell people, like maybe a website, maybe you got new music coming out? Do you want anything? You want anybody to know anything out there?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as the tour's over, and I've said this like several times, I feel like I'm lying, but I'm really going to make an attempt just to sit down and actually make new music this time. I mean, beyond that, I'm just happy people still pay attention to what I do, I appreciate that, because I've had some extended breaks, and that would be the time when people just kind of fall off the wagon and just disappear. And stuff like that, but it does seem like a lot of people are just coming back as soon as I do something. They crawl back out of the woodwork,
like me.
Yeah, there we go. And that has a lot of value to me.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that.
Hey, man, we appreciate you coming through. I didn't think I'd ever see you again. You were talking about visas and all kinds of problems. Having to get to the United States was just a pain in the ass in and of itself.
Yeah, that is a bit of an ordeal, but
And the
always
money,
worked out,
I mean,
but it
yeah,
just
I mean,
takes a long
yeah,
time.
yeah,
And yeah, it is very expensive.
Yeah,
It's
it's-
like thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Just for one guy.
yeah.
Yeah, it's insane.
So people on the tour, should they expect kind of like the old like Mortis doing crucifieds and blood, and is it?
There's some blood. I mean, you know, but it's still visual. It's just different types of visuals. I'm not crucifying chicks on stage this time. I mean, I might do it next time.
I have a story about that.
Oh, really?
When you played here in 1999, after the show, you and your girlfriend, I think it was your girlfriend at the time, you actually,
it was Amanda. That was
Yeah.
we were together.
and she had swallowed a bunch of the fake blood when you
She
guys
had?
were on stage, and you were out in the street with your makeup on, and she was puking this blood up, or like spitting it out, or throwing it up, and you were
Right.
you were holding her hair out of her face like a gentleman.
Back in the days when I was nice.
Right, but these gangster guys come driving down Main Street in their Cadillac, and they're like boom, 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 and they are leaning out the window, and they look over and they see this demon on the corner choking this chick, and she's spitting up blood, and that's in their minds. That's all they saw was you choking some chick,
Right.
and seeing blood, and man, they hit the gas pedal and peeled out. That's one of my favorite stories to tell about Mortis.
They actually got out
they
there.
freaked out. They saw you and like they were out of there,
I
man.
don't think I even registered.
Oh my God, it was hilarious. There was blood all over the sidewalk
Oh my
for months
God.
after that, and everybody asked me, "What's all this blood from?" I'm like, "Oh, that's where Mortis killed his girlfriend."
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
That's what you can expect on tour with Mortis. So
On
you-
tour.
there you go. All right, all right, man.
That's fantastic.
I had to tell that story. I had to.
It's a good story.
It is.
I'd forgotten all about it.
That was a good. That was a good night. That was a lot of fun.
fuck yeah, and paid counterfeit money.
Now, you know, we won't mention names, but yes, one of we might as well.
We don't have to mention.
Are we going to talk about that?
We don't
We
have
might as well. No, let's get it out there. That night, one of my partners, not me, paid Mortis counterfeit money. Okay, Mortis leaves the club with the money and then shows back up like half hour to an hour later, and he's like, "Oh, by the way, this money's fake." And me and Ben were horrified. Ben's dead now. God rest his soul.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
Ben died a few years ago, but yeah, I mean, we were just horrified about that whole experience, and that you got paid that counterfeit money. It was like, where does it even come from?
I don't know. I mean, what happened as far as us discovering that it was fake money was we had to stop for gas just down the street from the club, and they pointed out that it was fake money.
Wow.
So we got lucky in the sense that they could have just called the cops.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they were
that-
actually being cool.
Right.
In that sense, we were like, well, what are we going to fucking do? Well, we got to go back and get real money.
These freaky foreigners with this fake money.
Yeah,
That could
yeah,
have been
you know,
bad for you, man. I feel terrible about that, even though it wasn't
Yeah,
my fault.
No, it wasn't your fault. I mean, but it could have evolved into something pretty unpleasant.
Right.
In the sense that it's very illegal to
Yeah.
counterfeit money.
Yes.
We could have gotten
very.
paid for it.
All of us could have gotten in trouble for that.
Yeah, that would have been the end of that tour, I guess. And the next week in jail, just like with lawyers. And
Right,
shit.
right.
But hey, this is another fucking story, right?
Now, was it true that you guys were scared to even get out of the van when you got here? Was that Sarah made it? Sarah Jezebel Diva, if you don't know who Sarah is, she kind of made it seem like you guys had heard about us before you even got in town. That you heard about these goth cowboys in Kansas City who'll kick your ass and take your money, kind of an ad. Like we were like these crazy people or something.
I know.
You don't remember that? I was always wondering if that was true or not.
No. I remember actually going back to one of the promoters' apartments and getting ready there, and everything was kind of cool.
Yeah.
No.
Well, we'd actually had trouble with Christian Death that day, and Ben had to actually get on the bus and kind of get in their faces.
Really?
They, let's dish all the dirt, right? But Christian Death came in acting like they owned the place, and like they weren't gonna, they were like, this stage is too small, we can't play here.
All right.
And Ben's at home cooking them dinner and stuff, and I'm at work, and I'm like, well, you're just going to have to go on the bus and tell them they have a contract. And if they aren't going to play, then they owe us $1,200.
Right.
And Ben goes on the bus, tells the stage or the tour manager, look, the stage, there's nothing in the contracts about stage dimensions. You guys need to get the hell in there and figure it out. And they're like, oh, that's Valor. Go talk to him. They were all scared to talk to Ben because Ben was huge.
Yeah, he was pretty tall.
He was intimidating as hell, you know.
Yeah.
And he told them where it was, and he says, you're going to get the hell in there. You're going to figure it out.
That way he seemed to be a bit aggravated about the whole thing. Because I remember, like, after the show, he was saying some stuff, and I was a little confused by it. Because I wasn't aware of that situation.
Yeah.
Because we traveled separately. We were in a different van.
That whole day was an ordeal for us, man.
Shit,
It really was.
I
yeah.
had no idea.
And it's like he's at home cooking them dinner, and here they are trying to be prima donnas with us.
Right.
And then once he went off on them, he's like, I don't care if that's Valor. I don't care if he's Jesus Christ. I mean, he went off. And they went in with their tails between their legs, and they're, oh, there's no problem, guys. We'll play the show. No,
Really?
you know, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I was not aware of that.
yeah. And then we paid you counterfeit money.
Yeah. Again, what a day.
Yeah. So
Fucking
yeah,
hell. But I mean, you laugh at it.
yeah. I mean,
a
it's
good
all in the
story,
past,
you know,
man. It's a great story. That's Sarah Jezebel Diva's favorite road story ever.
Yeah,
There you go.
it's a good
So,
yarn.
yeah, a good yarn. That's a Midwest term if ever there was one.
No, fuck, man, I just laugh at that story, man. It's
Yeah,
funny.
it's great.
I've told it like a million times to everybody I know.
Yeah, it's a great story. And hey, when I emailed you about doing this interview, that's the first thing I brought up. Hey, remember when we paid you that fake money and all
Yeah.
that? So, all right, Mortis. Well, I'm going to let you get back to getting ready because we got a big show. The Chiefs are playing the 49ers in the Super Bowl upstairs right now, so we're hoping that maybe they're not losing. I don't know. It was halftime, tied 10-10 when we last checked.
Is it not going good?
Are you a football fan?
No.
No, I didn't think you were.
I don't care about it.
I texted you like a week ago saying, oh, by the way, and you had no clue when you booked this show that the Chiefs, we didn't know the Chiefs were even going to be in the Super Bowl.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, oh, by the way, the Chiefs are playing the Super Bowl tonight, and you're playing in the middle of Westport where, I mean, if they win this game tonight, it's going to be crazy. Crazy.
Yeah, we'll fuck it. As long as they don't, like I said, as long as they don't burn the freaking van, I mean,
Right.
You know what I mean?
Give you any
yeah.
fake money, we're good.
Yeah, that would be good. I don't want to repeat that.
Yeah.
I love Kansas, but not that.
Not that much, yeah. All right, Mortis. Well, I'm assuming they can go to mortis.com or whatever your website is and find out about your tours, your music, and all that jazz. And we will see you maniacs on the dark side.
Later tonight.